By April 1945, World War II was reaching its end. Allied forces were closing in on Berlin from both the east and west. The Soviet army under the command of Joseph Stalin was advancing relentlessly. From the west, American, British and Canadian forces were also making significant gains. Berlin, once a symbol of Nazi power, was in ruins. Constant bombing raids had reduced much of the city to rubble. Millions of German civilians were fleeing their homes. Amidst the chaos and destruction, Adolf Hitler remained in Berlin. He refused to leave his command center, a fortified bunker located beneath the Reich-Chancellery gardens. Hitler's grip on reality was slipping. He was convinced that he could still achieve victory, even as his armies crumbled around him. The situation in Berlin was dire. Food and supplies were running low. Soviet artillery fire could be heard throughout the city. The end was near. The Führerbunker, located deep underground, was a claustrophobic and oppressive environment. It served as both a military command center and a makeshift home for Hitler and his closest associates. Among those present were Eva Braun, Hitler's longtime companion, and Joseph Goebbels, his minister of propaganda. The atmosphere inside the bunker was tense and fearful. The constant shelling and the knowledge that the enemy was closing in took a toll on everyone. Hitler himself was described as being pale, shaky, and prone to outbursts of rage. Despite the desperate circumstances, a strange sense of normalcy prevailed at times. Meals were taken together, and Hitler continued to hold meetings with his staff. However, the ever-present danger and the knowledge that defeat was inevitable cast a dark shadow over everything. As the days turned into nights, the situation in the bunker became increasingly surreal. Those inside were trapped in a confined space, cut off from the outside world and surrounded by the sounds of battle. On April 30th, 1945, as Soviet forces were within a few blocks of the bunker, Adolf Hitler committed suicide. He and Eva Braun, who had married the day before, retreated to his private study. There, Hitler shot himself, while Braun swallowed a cyanide capsule. Their bodies were taken outside to the Chancellery garden, doused with gasoline and set on fire. The burning of the bodies was a hastily arranged affair carried out as Soviet shells rained down nearby. It was a desperate attempt to prevent their bodies from falling into enemy hands. The news of Hitler's death spread quickly through the bunker. For some, it brought a sense of relief. For others, it was the final confirmation of their worst fears. The man who had led Germany into war, who had promised his people a 1,000-year Reich, was dead. With Hitler gone, the remaining occupants of the bunker were left to their own devices. Some attempted to flee the city, while others chose to surrender to the approaching Soviet forces. The Führerbunker, once a symbol of Nazi power, was now a tomb. The discovery of Hitler's remains was shrouded in secrecy. Soviet authorities recovered the charred bodies from the Chancellery garden, but their identities were kept secret for years. This fueled speculation and conspiracy theories about Hitler's fate. However, forensic evidence eventually confirmed that the bodies were indeed those of Hitler and Eva Braun. Dental records and skull fragments provided conclusive proof. The cause of death was determined to be a gunshot wound to the head for Hitler and cyanide poisoning for Braun. The news of Hitler's death sent shockwaves around the world. For many, it marked the end of a nightmare. The Nazi regime responsible for the deaths of millions had finally been defeated. However, the scars of war would take generations to heal. Hitler's death brought an end to World War II in Europe. It ushered in a new era, one marked by the Cold War and the division of Germany. The legacy of Hitler's reign of terror would continue to haunt the world, a reminder of the dangers of hatred, intolerance, and unchecked ambition.